Aaron, I understand that how you guys have done in the playoffs over the last decade isn't entirely indicative of how you individually have played, but how big do you think these playoffs are for your legacy just because of what's happened the last 2 years and really over the past decade?
Yeah, I mean, it's all a part of it. I think success is often based, for quarterbacks on championships won a lot of times. I think success individually is much more than that. And failure, on the flip side of that, failure is not, in my opinion, shouldn't be based solely on your losses and your failures, your mistakes, your low points. It's so much more than that. It's a mindset. It's an approach. Just a total package. But I understand that in our business, so much of it is focused on the wins and losses, especially in the playoffs, Super Bowl rings, and all that stuff. I understand that's part of my legacy. I'll be judged on when I'm done playing, and every year is important when it comes to furthering your legacy. But I take a lot of pride in the success that we've had and that I've had, and I hope we can add to it, both from a how we're judged standpoint and how we judge ourselves standpoint.
Mike Clemens.
What were the 49ers doing to the Cowboys to limit CeeDee Lamb and Amari Cooper? And does any of that apply to Saturday night for you?
Yeah, I mean, I think they're going to have a plan for what we do offensively, and they had a plan. We played them week 3. They're well coached on both sides of the ball. I'm sure they'll be ready for a lot of stuff that we're doing, we're trying to do. It just comes down to execution in those moments. I think there's some opportunities for those guys the other night, but it comes down to execution. And the Cowboys didn't execute. The Niners defense did, kept them out of the end zone for much of that game. And coming to Lambeau on our field and our weather, we feel good about the product we've put on the field, and we got to go out and execute one more time.
Bill Huber.
Hey, Aaron, how you doing?
Hey, Bill. Okay.
Good. A little bit related to Matt's question, but how do you deal with pressure this time of year? And maybe has it changed as far as you've been there and done that so many games, but also it's such a finite time everybody has left, and Lord knows how many more chances of this you're going to get.
That seems a little morbid, Bill.
I don't mean you're going to die, Aaron.
I think football mortality is something that we all think about, and we all think about how many opportunities we're going to be afforded moving forward. And each one is special. Each season is different and unique in its own way, as has this one been. There's 4 teams left on the NFC side. We're one of them. We get to host playoff games. This is a special opportunity. We're not going to make it bigger than it is. We've gotten this far being level-headed and even keeled and not riding a roller coaster of emotions, and we're going to keep on doing the same thing. So if it was good enough to get us this far, it's good enough to get us past this point. So I'm excited about our opportunity, excited about the leadership we have on the football team, excited about the guys coming back, and excited to have a full crowd this year as opposed to last year, hoping for a loud crowd, that it has a nice, enjoyable afternoon. Maybe it doesn't go too hard, it leaves some room for some enjoyment from like 7 to 10:30 p.m. on Saturday night. So it's an exciting opportunity to be back at Lambeau for a playoff game in prime time.
Jason Wilde.
Hey, Aaron, how's it going?
Hey, good, Jay.
So I don't have to tell you to correct me if I'm wrong, because I know.
Oh, go ahead, Jason. Sorry about that.
All right, that's all right, Eric. I'm back. All right, so correct me if I'm wrong. All right. I asked a question of Lucas a couple weeks ago about, and maybe you saw it because I think Wes tweeted it out and it got like 100,000 likes, about when you're hard on guys, and he talked about how you make all these deposits. So then when you have to make a withdrawal, it was unbelievable. I'm wondering, have you been more conscious of that in recent years? And I don't want to say made less withdrawals, but made more deposits, and maybe you just don't seem quite as demonstrative when something goes wrong on the field as maybe earlier in your career. And again, if I'm wrong on that, that's fine. But is that something that has evolved, and how proud of you yourself are you on that, or how important do you think that's been?
I think that's an accurate statement. I think I'm definitely proud of that. Somebody trying to sneak in here. I learned that lesson as a young player from Joe Philbin, and he was really instrumental in helping me kind of see things that maybe I didn't see, that my intense desire to be great could be misconstrued at times as me getting on my teammates. And I always wanted to be cognizant of that, and never liked showing anybody up or being shown up, and realized I need to do a better job of leading by example. So through my mistakes and failures, I think in that area, definitely grew up a lot. And I think over the years, you can get a better understanding of players and how to best relate to them. Kindness and love goes a lot farther than frustration and getting on somebody's ass pretty hard. Some guys can take it, like Lucas Patrick is one of the most mentally tough guys I've been around. And there are times when I kind of got to get on him a little bit when it's stuff that I know he knows and is better than. And other guys you just can't treat the same way. That's the beauty in leadership. You have to understand how to push the right buttons on guys to get them to respond in the right way. And I'm proud of my ability to listen and grow. I'm thankful, deeply thankful to guys like Joe Philbin and Tom Clements and Alex Van Pelt, who've helped me understand that facet of leadership and being a quarterback. And, you know, I think when you're depositing love and kindness and appreciation and encouragement and support, that definitely makes up for the occasional withdrawals of frustration. But I think I've learned a lot of good lessons in that area, and thankful to have those lessons play out a little more often, and guys see the love and kindness rather than the competitiveness and the frustration and anger that might be designed for myself that could be misconstrued as me getting on them.
Mike Spofford.
Hey, Aaron, hope all is well. I just was wondering what your reaction was, and if you could share the team's reaction to Devondre getting first team All-Pro.
It was exciting. It was, Matt read it out. He said, there's 3 guys got first team. And I was thinking, well, me, Devontae, and it's maybe Rasul, or maybe Devondre. That would be amazing if it was Devondre. And when he said Devondre, everybody had this big smile on their face and was clapping and hooting and hollering for him, just because we love that kid. We love him. I mean, he's such a great dude. He's been such an important part of what we're doing here. And the thing that I took the most pride in, I think personally, was, you know, Matt was cool. Matt asked him to call the team up, so he brought it in, and he said, from day one, you guys made me feel important and special and a part of something special. And that got to me. It really did. And the older you get, I think it's easier to get a little misty from time to time. You know, you can watch an episode of Afterlife or Ted Lasso and find yourself kind of crying to yourself and going, man, this is really hit me at times. But that moment definitely got me because it's so important, I think, to myself and our leadership and the culture we've tried to create to make guys feel important, to make guys feel special, to make guys feel like they're a part of something. And I just feel like that's an underrated part of chemistry and culture that equates to winning. So for him to say that was really cool to hear. And for him and what he went through, really not being wanted by a lot of teams or any teams, and people feeling like he, you know, lost his step and didn't have it anymore. And then the Pro Bowl, which often you get selected maybe a year longer than you should and a year after you should. For him to not get to the Pro Bowl and to be voted first team All Pro, I turned to Dave after the breakdown. I said, "You got the Bakhtiari treatment. No Pro Bowl, but All Pro."
Steve McGargy.
I'm just wondering, obviously it's the playoffs, incentive isn't going to be an issue, but when you're playing the 49ers, a team with the postseason history you've had against the 49ers, how much motivation is that to try to get the best of them once? And also, I'm just wondering what your memories are of growing up watching 49ers Packers playoff games when you were a kid, if there's anything that stands out from those when it seemed like they're playing the postseason every year.
Yeah, I mean, not really any motivation. Motivation comes from within. I already have enough motivation on that. Inspiration, I did watch this rivalry growing up. One big moment that sticks out was Young to T.O. For sure. And I think a lot of Packer fans talk about there being a fumble on that drive that wasn't called, but yeah, I mean, this is one of those rivalries up there with Dallas and San Fran on the NFC side, and then all of our divisional rivalries, obviously us and Chicago. That's pretty special to the league, but no extra motivation. It's just, I've been around, played a lot of football. I understand the history of this rivalry, the history of us against them, but these are two different teams.
Aaron Nagler.
Aaron, first of all, Jerry Rice definitely fumbled. Number two, I hope you'll indulge me on a very kind of involved two-parter here. Number one, do you remember as a younger quarterback, say maybe in your first year as a starter, the moment where the game slowed down for you? We hear that a lot when it comes to quarterbacks and the game finally kind of slowing down for them. And secondly, if you could go back and tell yourself as you're waiting for that moment to arrive, a piece of advice in the sense of, it's going to happen. If you just stick with your work and you work on it, it's going to happen, because it seems in this modern era, you were afforded 3 years before you hit the field as a starter. These days, if these guys don't come out and produce right away, the fans, the media, and pretty soon the owners are chucking them to the side and ready to move on.
Yeah, that's definitely one way in the game. The game has changed. I would say, first of all, I'm glad you got your question in. And that they called on you. That's important.
Thanks, Aaron.
You're welcome. Secondly, to me, it was really the third year in preseason. So 2007, second year in Mike's offense, third year really in the West Coast, where there was a change in the speed. And that's said often and not really explained. So to me, what it means is that you are able to process and see things in real time instead of be almost with blinders on, where you can only focus on your play or the defense, not a combination of what you're doing, what the defense is doing, and now I can react. So it's the combination of the mastering your scheme, understanding defenses, and then the instincts to react. So that happened, I think, in the preseason of 2007, my third year in the West Coast offense. Where things really slowed down. As a starter, there's another jump. And for me, I think that in 2009, actually, I believe we opened with Chicago. Is that right? When I hit Greg for the touchdown with 2 minutes left. That was a win that definitely meant a lot confidence-wise, and things kind of, I felt like, really slowed down significantly that season of 2009. So it would have been my second year starting. The advice I would give is to my younger self and to any young quarterback out there is simplify things as much as you possibly can. There's going to be a lot thrown at you, and it seemed like an incredible amount of information on both sides of the ball and responsibilities. But if you can simplify it down to a base level of what do I got to do to execute this play? I got to get the snap. I got to take the proper drop. And this is my first read, second read, check down. That would have, I think, allowed me to settle in maybe a little bit quicker than it did for me, because it can be overwhelming when you're trying to take on the enormity of a situation, a game, environment, instead of simplifying it down to very simple tasks that I have to do on each play to be successful. And to be honest, I still do those things. When the moments start to get bigger, I simplify things on very tiny reminders and tasks that allow me to stay in my body, stay in my mind, be present, and not let the moment bring anxiety into the situation.
Stacy Dales.
Thanks, Eric. Way to go, Rachel. Hey, Aaron. So you play the quarterback position at an extraordinary level, and MVP again this season level. Do you go into zones to better understand how your mind works? Do you go into zones per week? Do you go into zones, mental zones during games? Or what kind of zone are you in right now? Because you do it at an elite level always.
I think what you want to do is have that flow state be a continual thing. The flow state is kind of the words that we've used to talk about being in the zone, whatever that means. It's really when you're playing your best and the game seems to slow down a little bit. I think in general, you'd like to live like that as well, where life seems to slow down a little bit and you're able to kind of see things coming and anticipate things and be present and show up for people. And I think there's a lot of crossover when you can do those things better in your personal life. Definitely it's going to show up in your professional life. And I think the more changes and growth you can make and show off the field, it's going to show up in the right way from a leadership standpoint. And that always impacts how you play. And the more you can practice good habits off the field, the good habits that you want to show up on the field are going to show up as well. So it's a full-time job, I think, to kind of stay in and around that flow state. There's certain things you can do to try and tap into that. For me personally, it involves, habits that I've formed over the years revolving around breathing and mindset and visualization and manifestation and things that are really important to me. Lessons I've learned on my own through trial and error, lessons from past coaches, lessons from conversations with our team psychologist, Dr. Carr. So it's tapping in those resources, which can be people or experiences, and finding a way to have that show up in the most important moments on game day.
We have time for one more. MK, go ahead.
Aaron, you got me? Okay. So you've spoken at length at how Fred Warner is one of the more dynamic players on the defensive side. It's expected that he's going to play. It's expected that Bosa is going to play. What does that Niners defense, though, look like with those two guys? And what does it look like without them?
Well, without those guys, they were without them for much of that game against Dallas. And there wasn't a tremendous drop off. Those guys are incredible players, all pro caliber players, but they're a very deep team, and they've, over the years have overcome a lot of injuries at specific positions, and that's given them depth to fall back on should some of their super stud players go down. But they're both game wreckers and fantastic players. I've known Fred since he was coming into the league. A lot of respect for him, how he plays, the way he goes about his business, his exceptional talent, but great instincts as well. Nick is, he's a formidable player, as formidable as you're going to see in the league. I mean, he demands attention, and he's strong at the point of attack. He's good against the run. He's obviously a great pass rusher, smart player, instinctual player. So, if they're on the field, we got to count for them. If they're off the field, they're going to have guys in there who are pretty damn talented too. So, we'll be ready for whoever's ready Saturday night.